He's our buddy. He fishes with us. The other night when Barry had to go to the hospital,
Is a little bigger than my daddy's now. I don't know what happened to him. He doesn't seem to be able to talk loud enough. Get old. But I don't have any problem. Last year, I did not have my family with me. I'm very happy to have them with me tonight. This is my wife, Mary. Some of you have not. But she has been my wife for the past 19 years. I know I don't seem like I'm hardly 19 years old, but you'll be 14 in about a week or so, something like that. This is my senior. They call him in Africa Daniel. And this is Laura. She's 9 years old, and Daniel will be 12 next week. So we're very glad to have my family with me. If I remember right, last year I greeted you in a number of different languages. Is that right? I can't remember. I go a lot of places and do a lot of things. Actually, there are about 450 different languages in Nigeria alone. Nigeria is about the size of Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi put together, but it has about half as many people as the United States has. So it's a very crowded country, but they speak something like 450 different languages. So actually, the common language then becomes English, but it's a special kind of English. We call it Pidgin English or broken English. I can't demonstrate it too well, but I tell you, my children can speak it perfectly. And so I'm going to ask my son Daniel to tell you a story. Now, he gets a little embarrassed about doing this, but he can't talk quite as loud as I can. But I hope that you can hear him tell a little story. This is a little story. This is a story. It's an African story. He learned from his African friends. And he's going to tell us the story. You're going to stand right here. And you've got to talk real loud. Now this is, I want you to see if you can understand what he said.
One day, all the bears there, they all go up to heaven so they could chop one piece. So now he thought his back there and said, make him carry on, go to heaven too, so he could chop the piece too. So now as the bears there, they prayed. He thought he's going to chop all the food freely. So the bear just best now, when they won't go down, they thought he won't go down with them. He said, let us go. So how can we take you when you have chop all our food freely? So he said, okay, now if you don't want to take me home, I beg you come and go message my wife say that you should put all the pillows and mattresses and everything in the house, down in the house, so that when I jump, I go land or something else up. So now they fly down and tell the wife, make him put rock and broken bottles and glass and everything in the house. So now when the tortoise jump and fall down, it just scatter and pieces it back. So that's why the tortoise have it somehow pieces back.
My wife, Carmen, and Laura knows what he had to say. Perhaps I better explain to you what this little story is. He said one time the birds wanted to go up to heaven for a feast, and the tortoise or the turtle wanted to go with them. But the birds could fly and the tortoise couldn't fly, so the tortoise asked the birds to take him to heaven where they could have the feast. So the birds took him. And while the birds were praying and asking the blessing for the food, the turtle chopped all the food. That means he ate all the food. And this vexed the birds. It made them angry. And so when the tortoise had eaten all the food, the tortoise said, please take me back down to earth. And the bird said, no, we won't take you back to earth. And so the tortoise said, well, if you won't take me to earth, would you please go down and tell my wife to put out in the yard mattresses and pillows and soft things so that when I jump from heaven, I will land on the mattresses and pillows and I won't hurt myself. And so the bird said, okay. So they flew down from heaven and they met his wife and they said, your husband said that you should put out in the yard stones and broken bottles and old broken things. And so the wife took and put all the broken things and stones out in the yard. And the birds flew back to heaven and said, okay, it's time to jump. So he jumped, and when he landed on all those broken things, it scattered his back. It means he broke his back. and that's why the turtle's back looks like it's broken. that particular story.
Okay, you ready, Brother Marshall?
We have our PA system working, but it's not working now, so I don't know. But I trust all of you to come here, supporting Dan and Mary, and praying for them. I trust that you've been praying that God will guide and direct their lives, that they may be used for the glory of God. This is a song that says, I know a man who can. So tonight, if you're going through a problem, you're going through maybe some battles, some hard times in your life, make it over again. But I know a man who listens, make it white as snow. But I know a man who can. If you feel no one can help you, and your life is I can't walk above these waters. So go and Savior, the Redeemer of all men. Go in Jesus, for He's my dearest friend. If you feel no one can help you, and your life is out of hand, well,
Before I turn this over to Danny, I'd like to tell you an experience. When I got in my car, little Monroe to pick up Mary, I was faced with the very same thing in Christian. Mary got hung up over in Dallas, I believe it was, told about it Saturday night. She couldn't make the connection. So I had to go, she called and I had to take off the money. And you know, God has a wonderful way of talking to us. When I left, Mary and Dan, they went to Esther Field to pick up. And I let it, when any traffic coming, I let it coast through. There's a stop sign over the side of the road. I got out, I raised the hood, and I was checking the oil, and here come a National Guard truck. 2 black men and a white man. And they says, can we help you? I said, you sure can. I told them about Mary coming in. I said, I got to get to a telephone. 2 of these fellows were mechanics. And so the black man stayed at my car, and the white man put me in the National Guard truck and carried me up to a store that was open. Walked up to the payphone, it was out off. So I went inside and I asked the little lady there, and did she have a phone? She says, yeah. So I called Georgia, and so Jackie got in her van, and Randy, and Barry, and Angie's sister, brother. And came up, and Jackie picked me up, and we got to Monroe and picked up Mary about an hour and 20 minutes later. But the reason I'm telling you this story, God did answer prayer. I prayed just about constantly when I left my house, all the way. And I just knew something was going to happen. But you know what? I could have got down there 16 miles from Pollock to Georgetown, where there wasn't a house or a stop anywhere. Russell, you know what I'm talking about. I could have gone down there and stopped right there and been delayed several hours. But he got us all to Monroe. He got my car back to a funeral garage, and he got us all there and back safely, and I praise him to see. I didn't get out and kick the tires. I didn't get out and curse. I was as calm as I am right now. And I give God all the glory and And all the praise because it put something in my heart. It caused it. Because that didn't used to be. I used to be as mean as the devil wanted me to be. And he just didn't cross me. And probably some of you know you're not that old. My wife is. So with this, again, I want to say thank you, but I do love the Lord this evening. I'll praise Him with all of my heart. And probably don't have as many more years as my daddy lived, but I want to do everything I can and take every opportunity that I can to testify to everybody that I can to try to get them to that seat that God, that Jesus is going to prepare for us. And I am thankful for Danny and Mary. And Danny, it's yours.
Most of you are my family one way or another. How many of you are kin to me one way or another? Don't be ashamed of it. Go ahead and raise your hand. Well, I assume that means the rest of you are not. But I think that would certainly be the majority. It is always good to be here. But, you know, Nigeria has a very extensive, extended family system. There is no welfare system in Africa. There is no Social Security. There is nothing of that nature. And so it's totally up to families to take care of one another. And they do a very good job with what little they have of taking care of one another. Unfortunately, it puts a great burden on the most successful one. The most successful person in the society has to take care of his children, his nephews and nieces, and his cousins, and everyone else. So it is very difficult. Well, I'm glad that you don't have to take care of me. We don't have to take care of each other in that way, but I do appreciate your love and concern and care. I suppose I could tell you some automobile stories too. I have a 10-year-old Volkswagen Beetle that I drive around various places in Africa, and had a number of experiences with it. For example, one time I went to preach in a village, and when you go and preach in a village, they like to give you something, and they don't have much money to give to you. So when I came back from the village that day, I had 8 people inside that Volkswagen Beetle. Inside the front, we call it the boot in that part of the world. Inside the trunk, which is the front, I had 3 bunches of bananas, great big, not little things you buy in the store, but the great big stalk. I had a stalk of plantains. I had, I think about 2 dozen eggs. I had 3 pineapples and 2 live chickens in that Volkswagen. And we made it just fine. I have a, don't y'all tell anybody this, but we have more helpers in Africa than the average person on Roe Gully has. My wife has a cook who cooks for her and cleans for her and washes dishes. He comes in at 6:30 every morning and cooks a breakfast for my family. And he is there a lot of times at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, washing and cleaning and doing. It's essential in that part of the world to have help. You don't have instant things that you can prepare. You have to prepare everything from scratch, and it just takes a whole lot of time to do anything. And when you can have a person work for you for $1 a day, it's well invested money. I also have a driver. I have a chauffeur, maybe you would say. He's not really a chauffeur, but when my children started going to an international school across town, I was so busy that I didn't have time to take my children to school. I don't want my wife driving on the roads that much. Driving in Africa is somewhat akin, I don't know if y'all ever went to these bumper car places. Well, that's kind of like what it is driving in Africa. And so I have this driver. His name is Samuel. I'll tell you about one thing that happened one time. We were going down the road, Samuel and myself, and he's a very good mechanic as well. And we were going along just fine. All of a sudden, the car was... And Samuel immediately said, I think we broke the accelerator cable. Now, you mechanics know what, in a Volkswagen, the engine is the back, and the accelerator cable runs around up, and sure enough, it was broken right at the pedal, and it was not enough to hook it back on. So Samuel has never let me down, so he said, oh God, don't worry, oh God is their word for master. He calls me master. It's kind of nice. He says, don't worry. So he got out the back of the car and he pulled that accelerator cable out, and he ran it around the left side of the car and through the door. And he took a rag and he wrapped it around the cable in his left hand, and he cranked the old car with his left hand. However, there was a problem. And the problem was, if you shut the door, the cable got stuck and boom! And we couldn't stop. So we had to kind of open the door. So I was sitting over here, and I reached around, and I was holding the door open slightly, so he could run that cable through there and run that car. And so we had most of it figured out, but my driver is very good, but he only has two hands, and you have to drive that steering wheel with one hand and run that accelerator with the other one, which kind of left the gear shift going without. So I was holding the door with one hand and running that gear shift with the other hand, and he was running the accelerator with one hand and the steering wheel with the other. And so we'd go down the road, and he'd go, and he'd say second, and I'd go down to second, and he'd say third, and go up to third. I thought we'd just cripple on